Part 27. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 261. Chapter 261 The Emperor's Preference. Everyone in the waterside pavilion looked at Jiangning. Jiangning hurriedly got up with the child in his arms, and blessed the Emperor and Empress with blessings. "Your Majesty, the Queen, this dish was made by my eldest son Yang Changsong and my eldest daughter-in-law Lu." The Emperor became more and more surprised. "I tasted his cooking when I was at your house, and it didn't taste the same. It seems that his cooking skills have improved again." Zheng Zheng could not help but take a breath of air when he heard this and rolled his eyes back and forth. The Emperor also went to Guang Enbo's house to have dinner? When did this happen? It looks like we need to send someone to investigate further later. Yu Karen standing behind was terrified and her body was shaking unconsciously. Why didn't she know these things? If he knew that the Emperor valued the Yang family so much, his brother would never act like this. With such a favor, Guang Enbo would still be secretive and pretend to be a pig to eat the tiger. It is really hateful. Jiangning smiled bitterly. "Your Majesty, when this kid was cooking in Ping'an County, he had never seen the world and was self-righteous. After coming to the capital and gaining experience, he also knows that he has to work harder. It's a good thing to know that progress is a good thing." The Emperor affirmed Yang Datu's efforts, and then looked at King Xiaoao regretfully. "No wonder it's unrealistic for you to invite people to cook in your house. Even he would not be able to call the son of a minister into the palace to cook for him, which would make him look like a foolish king." Jiangning hurriedly said, "Your Majesty, it's not that my eldest son is unwilling to go to the palace to cook for the prince, but that the child plans to open a restaurant in the capital and is busy with everything." The Queen covered her mouth and chuckled. "In this way, King Xiaoao can eat it whenever he wants." "The Queen is absolutely right." The Emperor chuckled and asked, "Have you already thought of the name of the restaurant?" Jiangning was stunned for a moment and responded quickly, "Please give me a name from the Emperor." Wang Xiaoao on the side was amazed at Jiangning's reaction and silently gave her a thumbs up. The Emperor rarely tasted a novel dish and was in a good mood. He wrote the words Bai Wei Lu on the spot. No matter how stable Jiangning's character is, he can't help but laugh like a fool at this moment. In order not to embarrass herself, she went to Xilingxuan with her child in her arms. The three Zhao family members had already silently exited the waterside pavilion before the Empress. Seeing Jiangning smiling like this, she congratulated her without even asking why. Jiangning smiled narrowly. "Sister, you don't even know why I'm happy, so you congratulate me." Zhao Shi was happy. "We have lived in the capital for such a long time. If I don't even have this wink, wouldn't I be living in vain? Tell me, what's a good thing?" Jiangning told the Emperor about the name given to him. The two girls from the Zhao family and the Huang family covered their mouths in shock. The second eldest son of the Huang family is in business and has a restaurant at home. They are very aware of the value of the name given by the Emperor. When Baiwulo opens, the business of all restaurants in the capital will be affected. Because the Emperor gives the name, others can't play tricks no matter how jealous they are. Okay. With the Emperor's support, I wish your family a prosperous business and a lot of money every day, Zhao said exaggeratedly. It made Jiangning dumbfounded. "What do you two think is so lively?" Zhao turned around and was a little puzzled when she saw that the person coming was he, the wife of the Prime Minister. Jiangning greeted Mr. He familiarly and briefly explained the situation. He was overjoyed and said, "Hey. Then I have to book a table in advance." "We have agreed, but we can't forget it." "I can't forget it, I definitely won't forget it," Jiangning promised again and again. The other ladies saw the Prime Minister's wife and the Zhuoja censor's wife chatting and laughing with Guang Enbo, and they had different thoughts for a while. Jiangning has no time to chat with others. She believes that after today, the powerful people in the capital will no longer look down on their Guang'an residents. As for what will happen in the future, it depends on their own efforts. A dish of boiled fish brings the cooking competition to a climax. There was still a second competition. After Yang Datu and Lu Ye replied, they bowed out respectfully. Seeing that the emperor was happy, the old lady was in a good mood, and secretly told Mrs. Zheng, send some gifts to Uncle Guang'an's house later. Since people come to Beijing, there must be some exchanges. Don't worry, mother, my daughter-in-law knows what to do. Even if the old lady doesn't tell her, Zheng will still find a way to have a good relationship with Guang'anbo. The second game was about dim sum. Neither Yang Datu nor Lu Ye were good at making dim sum. Fortunately, they had strong backing. The two of them followed Zhang Ning's instructions and made milk tea, honey cake, and stuffed pork floss buns. The noodles are made in advance and only need to be stuffed and baked, which is faster than others. Soon the food for the second competition was brought to the waterside pavilion, and there were a dazzling array of exquisite pastries. Xiao Wang was not interested in these things, so he picked up a steamed pork floss bun and started to bite it. The emperor and the empress took a look and tasted one each. The queen's eyes lit up after just one bite, and she quickly called Princess Yongyang to come over and have a taste. Princess Yongyang was impressed by the steamed pork floss buns and milk tea in just one bite. She even had a small appetite and ate one steamed pork floss bun and a cup of milk tea. The queen is similar, but she eats and milk. The old lady likes honey cakes and another carrot cake very much. She also drinks a sip of milk tea, not to mention how comfortable she is. Because Yang Datu baked a whole plate of fried pork floss buns and honey cake, and also boiled a large pot of milk tea, everyone in the waterside pavilion could share a portion. After everyone tasted it, they finally understood the reaction of the queen and princess. However, everyone likes it. In fact, Yang Datu's cooking is not the best, but it is more clever and takes a different approach. In the end, the emperor gave the first place to a powerful old master, and the second place to Yang Datu. Before Yang Datu participated in the competition, Zhang Ning had warned him that they were here to build momentum for the restaurant, not to win first place, so he had a good attitude. This second place was completely unexpected, and he was very happy. I laughed like a fool. Those who looked down on the Yang family before are now envious of Zhang Ning. Although the Yang family has no background and the eldest son of the Yang family looks like an illiterate villager, he has skills. It also has the emperor's appreciation. When Baiwulo opens, business will definitely be booming. They can already foresee the rise of the Yang family. Many people came over to congratulate them in advance, and Zhang Ning and the other three were busy chatting with the dignitaries and were overwhelmed. Finally returned to Guang'anbo's mansion, and all three of them were paralyzed. When King Xiaoao entered the door, he happened to see this life-threatening scene. His eyebrows subconsciously raised slightly, with a hint of joking on his face, and he sat down slowly. What? This won't work. Zhang Ning's eyes moved, slowly turning along the sound, falling on King Xiaoao, waving his hands feebly. Why are you here again? Hey! I thought I wanted to come. King Xiaoao took a sip of water angrily, and said in a rare serious voice, I gave the wine you gave me to the emperor. The emperor was very happy and asked me what kind of wine it was. Zhang Ning suddenly became energetic. What did you say? Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 262. Chapter 262. The Bai family is looking for trouble. What else can I say? Just say that you brewed it in Ping'an County, and I don't know anything else. Zhang Ning, I didn't turn back when I fired my bow. The thing had already passed through the emperor's eyes and entered his mouth. I just pretended that I didn't know anything. If there is going to be trouble later, you can't turn me in. King Xiaoao reminded again and again. Zhang Ning sneered, what? Are you afraid of death? Bah, bah, bah. Can't you just hope that I will be happy? It's so unlucky to talk about death all the time, King Xiaoao complained angrily. You know I just want to be an idle prince who eats, drinks and has fun. I don't want to get involved in other things, so don't cause trouble for me, you know. King Xiaoao threatened fiercely, but without any lethality. Zhang Ning nodded perfunctorily, stared out the window in a daze, and then asked for a moment, what's going on with the concubine? Did I provoke her? King Xiaoao looked her up and down, shaking his head repeatedly. Don't you understand why a big tree attracts the wind? Your background is there, but you have been favored by the emperor and given a title. Everyone will be jealous, but some people are smart and don't. He will put his dark thoughts in front of him. There are some people who can't hold their breath and reveal their thoughts just by opening their mouths. There is also a kind of person who doesn't take you seriously at all. De Fei is this kind of person. De Concubine's natal family, the Bai family, was an imperial merchant. When the Holy Lord founded the country, the Bai family donated half of their family property to help the Holy Lord conquer the world. After the Holy Lord ascended the throne, he rewarded the Holy Lord based on his merits and made the Bai family the royal merchants. The items used in the palace were given priority from the Bai family. A businessman. Profit is the first priority in everything. Chi state often encounters some natural and man-made disasters. Food is needed for disaster relief and food is needed for border wars. The more serious the natural and man-made disasters are, the more money they make. To put it bluntly, they are cutting leaks from the people and killing them when they are sick. At this time, no matter how poor the poor are, they will use their family funds to exchange for food. If they have no family resources, they will sell their children and daughters. Promote economic development in many industries. You have made a taro and white potato, which can feed even the barren land at the border. Even if there are natural disasters or man-made disasters, the people will still have enough food, and they will not be afraid of starving to death. They will not have to sell their sons and daughters, and they will not have to empty their homes to buy food. Think about it, how many people's businesses will be affected by this? However, they have a hard time saying it, because they will definitely be sprayed to death if they say anything, so they can only curse you secretly. The ancestors of the Bai family were grain merchants. Nowadays, the business is big and involves all aspects, but grain is still their foundation. You have impacted the foundation of the Bai family's business. It's strange that concubine thinks you have a good face. Zhang Ning laughed angrily and couldn't help but curse, this woman is crazy. Does the emperor know what she is thinking? King Xiaoao nodded slightly. Brother Huang is so smart, how could he not know that concubine's face changed as soon as she targeted your brother today, but it's hard for him to say anything in front of so many people. After all, concubine represents the royal family. It's a shame, but I don't know if Brother Huang will punish him after he returns to the palace. Zhang Ning said nothing again. In a blink of an eye, the day came when Baiwalo opened. Zhang Ning asked Huaji to pack it up for her early and went out before dawn. Red silk flutters outside the Baiwei building. There are some flower baskets standing at the door. The flower baskets are filled with colorful sugar flowers, which look beautiful, elegant, and novel. Usually, flowers are placed at the door of a business owner's house. The more expensive they are, the deeper the business heritage. Everyone knows that the Yang family is poor and cannot get expensive flowers, so many people are ready to come and watch the joke. Mrs. Bai came with her daughter Baiyuju in a gorgeous carriage. Surrounded by her servants, she got out of the car arrogantly. She looked critically at the flower basket at the door and covered her face with a handkerchief in disgust. Everything comes to dirty this lady eyes. Xiao Konggyun, who had his back to Mrs. Bai, had just taken a sugar flower from his small hand. When he heard this, he turned around subconsciously, and the frown on his tense face became even tighter. Madame Bai naturally saw Xiao Konggyun, but she had never met Prince Xiaoyao and did not know Xiao Kongyun's identity at all. Seeing that he was dressed in a low-key manner, she thought he was just an ordinary official's son. She did not hide her disdain and said, "I have never seen him before. The little things in the world, even a piece of candy is a treasure." As she said this, Mrs. Bai strode towards the door, and as she passed by the waiter, she snorted angrily, "It's so shameful that we don't even have potted flowers for the opening. Is it worthy of the name mentioned by the emperor?" What this madam said is absolutely right. Zhang Ning was just inside the door and listened to every word of what Madam Bai said. If Madam looks down on her so much, why bother herself to enter our restaurant? Madam Bai glanced at Zhang Ning up and down, full of disdain. "You must be Uncle Guang-en. Why do I think I'm such a big shot? There are more than one people in this capital who have been honored by the emperor, but one as arrogant as you is not common. You are right, my wife really doesn't like this wretched place. I just came here to remind you that this is the capital, not a remote place like yours. Don't be too self-righteous. You won't even know how you died." Lu Ye was so angry that she was stopped by Zhang Ning just as she was about to step forward. "I wonder who this lady is. Defei's sister-in-law, she's just a merchant." Xiaoyao Wang slowly came down from the second floor with a wine bottle in his hand, exuding an unruly attitude. Madam Bai had never met Prince Xiaoyao, but she had met King Xiaoyao a few times. Her expression was now a bit more shameful and angry. She did not dare to do anything to King Xiaoyao, and directly pointed the finger at Zhang Ning. "Uncle Guang-en is so kind. What a skill. Even King Xiaoyao fell under your pomegranate skirt, but I don't know where the eldest daughter of the Prime Minister's mansion was defeated." A sound of pop. Mrs. Bai was slapped before she could react. She screamed uncontrollably and turned angrily to look at the person who beat her, only to meet his fire-breathing eyes. "Who do you think you are? You're just a businessman, but you dare to arrange my daughter like this in public. If Mrs. Japan doesn't teach you a lesson today, won't you confirm the rumors?" he roared sternly, almost pointing at Bai Bai. The lady's nose scolded. Bai Yuzhu saw that her mother was at a disadvantage, so she rushed forward and pointed at Sun Linger angrily. "You admit it yourself, what does it have to do with my mother? Now that King Xiaoyao is here, you go and fight for it? You can't even compare to a widow. What a shame we, the noble ladies of the capital, are in disgrace. Miss Bai, be careful. I have never said anything that is out of bounds, and I am completely innocent with King Xiaoyao. It is just you who have speculated and poured dirty water on me. Everyone is here today, so I will take the opportunity to clarify it to avoid rumors. The more rumors spread, the more outrageous it becomes, affecting the reputation of my Sun family." Sun Linger stood up, looking neither humble nor arrogant, completely gone from the timid and weak look he had that day at Guang Enbo's mansion. He felt relieved, glanced at her eldest daughter with satisfaction, and straightened her waist more and more. "Miss Bai, you all heard clearly what my daughter said. After all, you are also a young lady raised by an imperial merchant. How could you talk to that market man? Women usually talk behind their backs. In the past, my daughter did not refute because the pure person is self-righteous and is not afraid of a slanted shadow. I didn't expect that your rumors became more and more outrageous. What are your intentions? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 263. Chapter 263. The beggar who wants to eat. "You Baiyuzha," cried angrily, grabbing Mrs. Bai's sleeves with an aggrieved look on her face. "Mom, you have to make the decision for your daughter. She is obviously the one who has been misunderstood, but now she is talking about her daughter behind her back. How can she behave if word spreads out? Ah, There was a loud bang, and the wine bottle in King Xiaoyao's hand shattered to the ground and fell into pieces. Everyone was startled and looked up. King Xiaoyao stared at Mrs. Bai and her daughter coldly. What? Do you think this king is dead? Mrs. Bai and her daughter were frightened. They knelt down in panic and admitted their mistake. Your Majesty, I didn't mean that. Then what do you mean? King Xiaoyao was not going to handle it so lightly. Mrs. Bai was so anxious that she broke out in cold sweat. Baiyuzhu was crying and felt extremely aggrieved. Your Majesty, it was Sun Linger who clearly misled us, but now she is falsely accusing us of harming her. She is a scheming bad person, and it is all her fault. Please take a closer look, Your Majesty. King Xiaoyao slowly walked up to Baiyuzhu, lifted her chin, and raised the corners of his mouth evilly. I happen to be short of a concubine in my palace. I think you are quite suitable. Miss Bai, do you want to consider it? Mrs. Bai was so frightened that she quickly protected her daughter behind her. Your Majesty, although our Bai family is a merchant, we are also royal merchants granted by the Holy Lord. Yuzhu is the legitimate daughter of the Bai family and the niece of Empress Dowager De. How could you do this? To cheat on her? If word of what happened today spreads out, who else will dare to marry her daughter in the future? King Xiaoyao seemed to have heard a big joke and laughed so much that tears came out. Mrs. Bai also knows that a woman's reputation is very important. How can you have a long memory if I don't let you feel the same way? Xiao Konggyun couldn't stand it anymore, so he stepped forward and grabbed King Xiaoyao. Father, when you've had enough fun, go upstairs and don't make a big deal out of it. King Xiaoyao glanced at Xiao Konggyun. Aren't you angry when that old woman said that to you? Mrs. Bai, who was called an old woman, turned pale when Xiao Konggyun called her father. She never expected that the child she looked down upon was actually Prince Xiaoyao. If she had known the identity of this child, she would not have dared to tell him even to death. If you say that kind of thing, you don't even dare to anger King Xiaoyao. At this moment, Mrs. Bai realized that she had gotten into a big trouble. She immediately knelt down at Xiao Konggyun's feet and knelt down, weeping and apologized. I have eyesight and cannot see Mount Tai. Your Majesty, please forgive me. Xiao Konggyun frowned slightly and walked around to the other side of King Xiaoyao with the candy flowers. I don't want to be the same as them, but I can't be so lenient. Just slap them 3 times. Everyone looked at Xiao Konggyun in surprise, as if they didn't expect him to say such a thing. Zhang Ning was stunned for a moment, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but raise slightly. After Mrs. Bai and her daughter left in embarrassment, she couldn't bear it anymore and hurriedly stepped forward to thank Xiao Konggyun. Your Majesty, today is really an eye-opener. You can tell me what you want to eat? Baiwalo won't charge you today. There is such a good thing. Son, hurry up and order everything from the menu. There is no need to be polite to your aunt. King Xiaoyao rubbed his hands and prepared to have a big meal. Xiao Konggyun just felt that he had no eyes to see and did not want to look at his father's face that was thicker than the city wall. He turned to Zhang Ning and cupped his hands. Auntie, you don't have to be polite to me. The mother and daughter just went too far. I just gave it to you. They only teach a lesson to scare the monkeys. After all, you also know that my father is unreliable. If you don't do something, outsiders will only talk nonsense more unscrupulously in the future. Today is bad luck for them. Thank you for that. They are women after all. No matter how angry your father is today, you can't punish them. But you are a child. Even if you punish an outsider, they won't say anything. They still have to praise you for your royal demeanor. Let's go. Auntie will take you up and recommend some delicious food to you. Zhang Ning was in a good mood and pulled Xiao Konggyun upstairs, completely ignoring King Xiaoyao. King Xiaoyao pointed at himself, with a confused look on his face. Me? Me, Mrs. He shook his head and turned around to whisper to Sun Ling. Prince Xiaoyao will have to point at the prince from now on. This person is considered useless. Sun Linger found it hard to comment when she saw the man she had once loved so much by mistake looking so stupid. Sun Yu urged excitedly, "Mom, sister, stop talking, let's go up too. I can't wait to taste the delicacies that the emperor and queen praised." Mr. He was very helpless because of her fussy second daughter. She wanted to teach her a few words but it was inappropriate, so she had no choice but to give up. As soon as they went upstairs, Princess Yongyang came over with the maids and eunuchs. Zhang Ning's was not yet hot from sitting, so he hurried downstairs to greet her. Princess Yongyang pointed to the broken porcelain pieces on the ground and asked, "Did someone make trouble just now?" Zhang Ning wanted to cover it up, but then he thought, this is a princess, there is nothing she can hide, so she immediately told her what had just happened. Princess Yongyang frowned in disgust. Why are they the mother and daughter who have settled down again? Broken residence, Zhang Ning was puzzled. Didn't he say that the Bai family were imperial merchants? How did it become settled? Seeing her like that, Princess Yongyang shook her head. Uncle Guang'an wants to gain a foothold in the capital. There are many things he needs to know. The Bai family are indeed royal merchants, but Mrs. Bai is just a continuation of her family. She is not of high origin and has limited knowledge. She thought it would be great to marry an emperor merchant. Huang merchant, emperor merchant. No matter what, the word Shang is inseparable. It's really ridiculous that she dares to look down on Guang'an's mansion like that. However, in my opinion, Bai Yuzhu and her daughter do not have such brains, and they were probably used as guns. Zhang Ning nodded thoughtfully. Just as he was about to take Princess Yongyang upstairs, he heard a commotion coming from the kitchen and hurriedly apologized and left. What happened? Zhang Ning strode into the backyard and frowned at the messy people. The woman washing vegetables knelt down in fear. "Madam, these two beggars came to us for food when our restaurant opened. The eldest young master gave them each a bowl of rice. After they finished eating, they said they were not full. Want this?" The sloppy old man on the left met Zhang Ning's probing gaze. Not only did he not dodge, he brushed back his messy and smelly hair and wiped his face with his pitch-black hands a few times to try to make himself look clean. But the more they are rubbed, the darker they become. On the other hand, the man on the right has his head lowered, shrinking, and not daring to look at anyone. This is what a beggar should look like. Zhang Ning finally knew where the weird thing was. At this moment, Princess Yongyang passed by Zhang Ning like the wind, pointed at the beggar and shouted, "Uncle! Where are they running? Come, help me surround them." A group of guards rushed up and surrounded the two beggars. The old beggar looked at this and that, and put his hair down in a panic to cover his face. "I'm not, you got the wrong person." Princess Yongyang was so angry that her eyes were red. "I played with you since I was a child, and I know you even when you turn into ashes. How can you deny me? Am I still your most beloved grandniece?" The old beggar couldn't hold his head up even more after being scolded, and kept repeating that he had admitted the wrong person. "I secretly regretted it. If I had known better, I would not have been greedy. How can I get away now?" Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 264. Chapter 264. This is my son. It didn't matter that Zhang Ning didn't know the old beggar's identity. Now that he knew it, he definitely couldn't let him go like this. He immediately ordered the shopkeeper Su, "Hurry up and have someone boil hot water for the old prince to wash up, and prepare a pair of clean clothes. Prepare good wine and good food to entertain." Shopkeeper Su hurried to the back kitchen to report to Yang Datu. Yang Datu rushed out with a spatula, frightened by the battle in the backyard. "Mom, what do you want to eat?" Upon hearing this, the old prince suddenly raised his head and ordered the dishes with great interest. "I want boiled fish, spicy crab, spicy chicken, crispy taro slices, fried pork floss buns, honey cake, and milk tea. Zhang Ning smiled and glanced at Yang Datu. Hurry up and get ready. I understand. Yang Datu rushed back to the kitchen. Princess Yongyang looked as angry as a frog. You also said you are not my uncle. The old prince smiled awkwardly, got timid, and pulled the beggar next to him. Let's go. I will give you a long experience. Who is he? Princess Yongyang finally noticed the other beggar. The old prince bared his teeth and said with a smile, my son. Huh? Princess Yongyang was stunned and subconsciously covered her mouth with her hands. Zhang Ning also had a look of confusion on his face. The father and son did not care about the good prince and son, and actually went to grab a job from a beggar. What's wrong with them? No, no, uncle, where did you get your son? Princess Yanjiang's sharp cry almost pierced Zhang Ning's eardrums. Zhang Ning quickly asked the shopkeeper to send the old prince and his son to wash up, and he walked towards the lobby with Princess Yongyang in his arms. Princess, don't be anxious. If you have any questions, I'll ask them after the old prince has washed up. Princess Yongyang anxiously twisted her handkerchief and was sent to the second floor by Zhang Ning. Wing Xiaoyao was ecstatically tasting wine in his private room. Xiao Konggyun was sitting beside him with an upright posture. The father and son formed a sharp contrast. The door to the private room was pushed open with a bang. Father and son both looked over. King Xiaoyao glanced at the angry Princess Yongyang and asked casually, who made our little princess unhappy? Uncle, Princess Yongyang said depressedly. King Xiaoyao spurted out all the wine in his mouth, his eyes widened in disbelief. Who are you talking about? Wow! Princess Yongyang burst into tears with anger. Wang Xiaoyao and Xiao Konggyun were both a little panicked, and hurried over to get people into the house one by one. What's going on? Why are you crying just because you're crying? King Xiaoyao looked at Zhang Ning suspiciously. Seeing her looking like she was speechless, his heart sank inexplicably. He can't really be the emperor's uncle, can he? Zhang Ning nodded silently, and King Xiaoyao rushed out. Where is the person? Where is the person? The private room on the second floor was buzzing with excitement again. After King Xiaoyao learned about the situation, his reaction was similar to that of Princess Yongyang. A group of people gathered around the round table. You looked at me and I looked at you, speechless. King Xiaoyao was the first to break the silence. Does my uncle really have a son? Princess Yongyang glared angrily. Uncle? How come you are fooling around with your uncle? How long has your uncle been away? That man looks about the same age as you, how could he be his uncle's son? That's true, King Xiaoyao thought thoughtfully. Zhang Ning asked weakly, could it be the bloodline of the old prince who accidentally strayed outside? Impossible, the three of them said in unison. Zhang Ning hurriedly agreed, yes, yes, it's impossible for the old prince to do such a thing. It was my fault. Princess Yongyang was a little discouraged. It's not what Guang and Bo thought. King Xiaoyao then said, my uncle, has been obsessed with cultivating immortality and elixir since he was young. The emperor's grandfather was very angry, but the emperor's uncle went his own way. Every time the father and son met, they were very unhappy. However, the emperor's uncle never did anything treasonous. The thing is, I just like to practice immortality and refine elixirs. The emperor's grandfather really couldn't punish him severely. Later, when he got married, the emperor's uncle didn't understand at all. The emperor's grandfather became anxious and thought that maybe finding a princess for the emperor's uncle would change his mind. For this reason, a beautiful woman was chosen for him. Unexpectedly, the emperor's uncle was a gentleman and could sit comfortably in the presence of a beautiful woman. On the wedding night, the princess was left alone in the empty room. This matter came to the ears of the emperor's grandfather. The emperor's grandfather and the emperor's grandmother severely reprimanded the emperor's uncle, and even threatened to demote him. As a result, the emperor's uncle went to become a monk directly. He didn't take anything and ran away alone. You think this is the case, what else can the imperial grandfather do? Then what? Zhang Ning became excited after hearing this, wishing that King Xiaoao had said everything without taking a breath. King Xiaoao was a little depressed, the emperor's grandfather couldn't do anything to him, and he felt sorry for his daughter-in-law. However, if his son ran away, he couldn't let his daughter-in-law remarry. So the emperor's grandfather was furious and threatened to sever ties with the emperor's uncle. Later, the emperor's aunt became seriously ill. The emperor's uncle suddenly came back to see her and talked to the emperor's aunt for a day. When the emperor's aunt left, she was very peaceful. The emperor's grandfather said to the emperor the uncle's anger has subsided a little. The emperor's uncle never went out after he came back that time. He just kept himself locked in the palace and concentrated on practicing Taoism. He didn't leave the palace until the death of the emperor's grandfather. His father was in poor health. He was afraid of instability in the government after he ascended the throne, so he forced his uncle to stay in the capital. Perhaps because he was older, his uncle was not as stubborn as he was when he was young, but he was also considerate of other people's difficulties. He continued to assist his father until his death. A few years after his brother ascended the throne, the emperor's uncle said that the burden on his shoulders could be relieved, so he ran away. Calculating the time, he has been away from Beijing for 7 or 8 years. I thought he had attained enlightenment and became an immortal, but he turned out to be a beggar. I don't know if a beggar gang was established and a gang leader was appointed. Zhang Ning couldn't hold it back and laughed out loud. Princess Yongyang was furious. Uncle. My uncle is so pitiful, and you still make fun of him. Do you have any conscience? King Xiaoao had a headache. Come on, I won't say anything. The old man will come over later and you can ask him what happened to his cheap son. The blood of the royal family cannot be confused. While talking, a group of guards came in surrounded by the freshly washed Prince Rui and a middle-aged man. Zhang Ning was about to stand up and salute when he saw the middle-aged man and was immediately stunned. How can they be so similar? You know him, King Xiaoao was shocked. Princess Yongyang was originally quite hostile to this person. Seeing Zhang Ning's reaction, she realized that there might be something wrong with this person and immediately restrained her emotions. Mr. Rui laughed and pulled the other person to sit down. There are thousands of similar people in the world. It's not surprising that Uncle Guang'an has seen people who look like my son. Zhang Ning saw that the other party didn't respond, so he came back to his senses and hurriedly saluted. Mr. Rui waved his hand and said, I am a person who values Taoism and nature. I do whatever I want. I don't have so many rules. We are all members of our own family. There is no need to come here. Come on, where is my food? I'm starving. Shopkeeper Su quickly went out to organize things. After Zhang Ning sat down, his eyes always glanced at old Prince Rui's son with a vague look. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 265. Chapter 265. They just look similar. Princess Yongyang was the first to lose her composure. She pointed at the people around Mr. Rui and asked, what happened to him? Uncle, if you don't tell me honestly, I will send someone back to the palace to invite the emperor to come over. Mr. Rui finally had some reaction, but he hesitated for a long time. Under pressure, he broke the pot and smashed it. Okay, I admit, I don't have a son, but everyone's hearts couldn't help but lift up. Although he is not my biological son, he is better than my biological son. None of you can have any ideas about him. Do you understand? Prince Rui gave King Xiaoao a threatening look. King Xiaoao was lying innocently, Uncle Emperor. I didn't say anything. Besides, shouldn't you tell Brother Emperor that you recognized your son as your son? And it's not clear where this person came from. What if he is a craftsman? Impossible, Prince Rui and Zhang Ning shouted in unison. Old Prince Rui dragged the man behind him like a child. You, don't even think about trying to take advantage of my godson. Zhang Ning had a headache and stopped talking. Princess Yanjiang's eyes lit up. She grabbed Zhang Ning's sleeve and asked, Uncle Guang'en, do you know him? Zhang Ning chuckled and said, Princess, I'm just guessing and haven't confirmed it yet. What are you confirming? This is my son. He is my son. No one is allowed to ask any more questions. Prince Rui was extremely angry, but he persisted in waiting for food. King Xiaoao and Princess Yongyang exchanged looks and shut up. Zhang Ning was even more afraid to speak. Soon the shopkeeper brought the waiter to serve the dishes. When Prince Rui saw that he was eating, his depressed mood was gone, and he kept picking up food for the people around him. Yi, come on, eat this. You haven't eaten this before, and this fish, I heard it's delicious. Come on, don't you like fish? Try it now. Mr. Rui kept picking up food for Yi, completely forgetting that there were other people sitting at the table. Princess Yongyang was originally very dissatisfied with Yi, but now she saw old Prince Rui's behavior and didn't even know how to feel about this person. She approached King Xiaoao and asked in a low voice, do you want to inform your father? King Xiaoao nodded repeatedly, I have asked Qikong to handle it, we have no control over this matter. From Zhang Ning's reaction, it was clear that he knew this person, but his imperial uncle kept him occupied and refused to let him go, so what's going on? The king and princess of Yongyang did not lay chopsticks in this meal, and even Xiao Kongyun sat silently and looked at the two. When they have had enough wine and food, Mr. Rui will take Yi away. King Xiaoao hurriedly stopped the person, Uncle, you just came back, you can't just leave. What's going on? You still want the old man to pay, old Prince Rui said in a bad tone. King Xiaoao shook his head like a rattle, and sneered twice in a flattering manner, no matter who you ask to pay, you can't ask your uncle to pay. We haven't seen each other for so many years, and it's not easy to see each other again, so we have to catch up on old times, right? Go and leave me alone. I know that you are like a hornet's nest. You must have no good intentions if you keep trying to stop me. Aren't you just waiting for your brother to come? Huh. I will leave when he comes, the prince is ready to take action. The emperor finally arrived with Dekang. Everyone in the room breathed a sigh of relief and saluted. The emperor was focused on old Prince Rui. Seeing that his beard and tail were intact, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Then he raised his eyebrows and asked, Uncle, don't you want to see me? Old Prince Rui protected Yi behind him and gave a rough salute, if the emperor doesn't ask about my son, I can tell him anything. The emperor's forehead was throbbing with veins, and his eyes fell on Zhang Ning. Uncle Guang'an seems to know this person. Zhang Ning looked around at everyone and slowly lowered his eyes, looking a little embarrassed. The emperor said very understandingly, if you have something to say, just say it. I asked you to speak. Zhang Ning paused and stepped forward to give Fu Li, since the emperor has asked, I can only tell the truth. To be honest, my natal family was originally a subordinate. Before I got married, I had parents and brothers in the family, but later I moved away. After getting married, my father and brother died in a shipwreck at sea. I noticed that this man looked very similar to my late brother. It's just that my mother and sister-in-law both said that my brother had died, and my sister-in-law even cried blindly because of this, so I didn't dare to confirm the identity of this person, for fear of wasting my joy. Maybe, as the old prince said, he just looked similar. Yes, they just look alike. Prince Rui couldn't wait to agree with Zhang Ning's guess, feeling that there was no silver in this place. The emperor laughed angrily, Uncle. I won't steal anyone from you, but you must tell the truth about this person's origins. Even if you accept your son as your adopted son, you should have serious etiquette. How can you be so casual? Why is it so troublesome? Mr. Rui frowned and was very resistant. The emperor's face darkened. If your uncle doesn't cooperate, I will have no choice but to use force. Moreover, this person's identity must be found out, and we can't be such a childish person. Seeing that the emperor was really angry, old Prince Rui instantly felt like a deflated rubber ball, wilting and chirping, "Okay, okay. Don't you just want to know I's life experience? I just said that. 7 years ago, I left the capital alone to travel. I wanted to experience the sufferings of the people, so I didn't bring much money with me. Who knew that the people I encountered on the road were either evil spirits or robbers, and they didn't even leave me a pair of underwear. I was forced to become a beggar, but I didn't want to go back like this, it would be too embarrassing. So I gritted my teeth and continued walking south. When I was hungry, I would eat wild fruits, or make a trap to catch a pheasant, etc., and I could live a good life. Gradually, I got used to the life of being a beggar. I was free, and could do whatever I wanted. What are you doing? No one will say that I have lost the royal dignity even though I am sneaking around." The corner of the emperor's mouth twitched hard twice, wondering whether he should ask him which house he had stolen from, and then secretly return the money. Prince Rui sipped his saliva, rested for a while, and then continued, "Later, I got tired of walking. At that time, there was a cargo ship going south, so I secretly boarded the ship. When I woke up again, I was already tired. Arriving at the waters of Kuzhu Prefecture. At that time, the boatman fished out a yi and said he was about to die. They threw him on the deck and ignored him. I went over and took a look. I treated a dead horse like a living horse, but I saved him. Live, that's all." King Xiaoao looked at Zhang Ning and blinked, then suddenly glared at Mr. Rui. "Then what? He should have a family." "Forgot, he can't remember anything," Prince Rui said lightly. "Everyone here knows almost everything." Princess Yongyang walked up to Prince Rui with a complicated expression. "Uncle, although you saved someone, you can't just keep him. Didn't you hear Uncle Guang'an said that her sister-in-law was blinded by crying?" "How could I know such a thing? It's not me who caused Yi to lose her memory." Prince Rui stubbornly believed that he was right. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 266. Chapter 266. The Past. The emperor was troubled by Prince Rui's behavior, but he was not in a hurry to express his position. Instead, he continued to ask, "Then what? Do you accept him as your godson?" "Of course not. Am I the kind of casual person?" Old Prince Rui snorted angrily. Everyone looked at each other, wondering who he was and who he was. Old Prince Rui was angered by the reaction of a group of juniors and had no choice but to jump on the spot several times to vent his anger before sitting down, and said, "I only did a good deed after rescuing the man, and I never thought about having anything to do with him. After all, I got on the ship secretly. What if I was discovered? I never expected that this kid lost his memory. Because I saved him, he decided that I was a good person and insisted on following me. I thought he was pitiful, so I let him follow me. So, no one can say that I abducted Yi, do you know that?" Princess Yongyang nodded desperately. "So my uncle has done a great thing." Prince Rui's face looked better, and he crossed his arms proudly. "We left together later. Everything in Kuzhu's capital city is expensive, and there are no mountains. I am penniless and have to take care of him. I can't stay here at all, so we went to the county town, begging for food along the way. During this period, I was sick and almost dying. Yi knelt outside the hospital door for 2 days and 2 nights to save me. The doctor couldn't drive him away, and the local gangsters couldn't beat him away. The doctor was frightened by him. I had to go on a medical visit with him, and the old man was lucky enough to save his life. I saved him, and he saved me. This is fate, which shows that the fate between us is not shallow. I told him at that time that he was my son, and we, father and son, depended on each other. The emperor felt very unhappy, and his face became a little more angry. Why didn't the emperor ask the local officials for help when he fell into such a predicament? I don't believe that all the officials don't know you. Old Prince Rui waved his hand. So what if we know each other? So what if we don't know each other? I was so sick and confused at that time. Are you pointing Yi to run to the Yamen to move reinforcements? I'm afraid he will be sent to the Yamen before he sees the official. Got beaten out. The emperor was the leader among thousands of people, so it was natural for him to think so. However, outside the capital, it was a different situation. He had the status of a prince but no proof. The officials could kill him with just one word of impersonation, so he didn't dare to gamble. The emperor choked and couldn't argue, but Yi's expression became much kinder. You still can't remember things? The emperor asked with concern. Yi timidly raised his head and glanced at the emperor, nodded, and then lowered his head. He felt that he was not in the same world as these people. Only his father could give him a sense of security. But now that his father seemed very powerful, would he not want him anymore? Yi was very worried. The emperor was worried, and Tong Dekang ordered, "Go and find all the doctors from the imperial hospital." After Dekang went out, the emperor turned to King Xiaoao and said, "If you let your uncle return to Prince Rui's mansion, I'm worried that as soon as I leave, your uncle will run away with his people. For the sake of safety, I will leave this period of time to you. Take care of me and live in your Xiaoao palace." King Xiaoao's face suddenly collapsed. "Brother Emperor, can we discuss changing someone? You see, my palace only has 2 masters. Kong Gaun has to study and practice martial arts. He is too busy and can't accompany the emperor. Uncle relieves his boredom. Let alone me, the emperor's uncle gets upset when he sees me and wants to snap his fingers on my head. Do you think I can keep an eye on the emperor's uncle?" "Humph, you are quite self-aware." Mr. Rui glared at Xiaoao Wang in disgust. The emperor had an even greater headache. Zhang Ning looked around and spoke slowly, "Your Majesty, why don't you let Mr. Rui and I live in your residence? Firstly, there are many empty courtyards in your residence, and secondly, I have nothing to do all day long. You can accompany me. Let the 2 of you talk, and Sanliken can also have a good understanding of I's situation. Maybe Chen is mistaken, or maybe he is Chen's miserable eldest brother." The emperor understood Zhang Ning's feelings very well and responded immediately, "I will give you some more people. If the emperor wants to escape, just let others capture him. I will support you." Drink. Is this how the emperor treats his own uncle? Prince Rui became anxious. The emperor saw him jumping around, feeling comfortable both physically and mentally. He leaned back lazily, with joy in his eyes and brows. "Uncle Emperor, I have no choice but to obey the authority in urgent matters. You see, this trip has been full of twists and turns. Fortunately, Yi values friendship. I will never leave you, otherwise I will collect your body right now. You are now old and it's time to enjoy your blessings. If you feel bored in the capital, go to Dingguo Duke's mansion for a walk." Mr. Rui raised his eyebrows. "What? My sister is sick again." The emperor's eyes were a little more sad and complicated. "My aunt has always been in poor health. It's not like you don't know." Hearing this, old Prince Rui finally became more serious. Not long after the emperor left, a group of imperial doctors entered the Beiwei building, carefully examined old Prince Rui and Yi, and reported to Prince Xiaoao, "Your Majesty, old Prince Rui is fine. Take good care of them." "That's fine. This gentleman's situation is more troublesome." Several people from the lower officials examined and found that he had congestion and blockage in his brain, causing amnesia. At present, it seems that the impact of blood congestion on him is just amnesia, but there is no guarantee that other problems will not occur. The best way is to take acupuncture, take medicine to loosen blood stasis, and actively cooperate with the treatment. This situation was more serious than Mr. Rui expected. At that moment, he panicked and ordered irritably, "You will go to Uncle Guang'an's mansion to treat him every day from now on. If he cannot be cured." A group of imperial doctors were trembling with fear. Zhang Ning hurriedly asked the people sent by the emperor to take old Prince Rui and Yi back to Guang'anbo mansion. Princess Yongyang and King Xiaoao no longer wanted to eat, so they also followed. Zhang Ning wanted to leave, but the restaurant was open today and there were many distinguished guests coming, so she couldn't just give up. After sending the person away, Zhang Ning calmed down and went up to the second floor. As soon as he reached the corner of the stairs, he saw guests in several rooms poking their heads and saw her coming up alone. All the doors of those rooms were opened. Prime Minister Sun and Mr. He took the lead, and a group of people came to Zhang Ning in a panic. "Uncle Guang'an, I just vaguely heard the emperor's voice." "Is the emperor here too?" Prime Minister Sun asked the question that everyone was concerned about. Zhang Ning nodded slightly. Everyone gasped, "Baiwolo is amazing." Not only did the emperor personally bestow the name, he also personally supported it on the opening day. Looking at the entire capital, which other restaurant has such treatment? Several ministers bowed their hands in a flattering manner. "Uncle Guang'an, is the emperor still here?" When they had doubts before, they wanted to confirm, but there were many guards standing outside the wing, and there was Princess Yanjiang's voice inside, which was very noisy. They didn't want to go, so they stopped and watched. It was quiet and no one came out. Zhang Ning smiled calmly and said, "The emperor has returned to the palace. They are walking up the stairs at the back. You can't see them. Since the emperor has no intention of showing up, my lords, just pretend that the emperor is not here today. Please use it with caution." Before confirming Yi's identity, she didn't even want to spread the news about Mr. Rui's return to Beijing. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 267. Chapter 267 Peeling the Fish. This calmness made all the ministers look at her several times, and even some ladies couldn't help nodding in their hearts. Although Guang'anbo was from an ordinary background, his bearing and self-cultivation were unmatched by some matrons. Yes, no wonder it has reached this point. Zhang Ning finished appeasing the guests on the second floor and hurried downstairs to find Yang Datu and Lu Ye. Lu Ye had been helping Yang Datu in the kitchen. When he saw Zhang Ning coming over, he took the time to ask, "Mom, what do those distinguished guests say? Are they satisfied with the food we cook?" Zhang Ning smiled encouragingly, "We are the only ones cooking spicy food in the whole capital. How could we be dissatisfied? Don't talk about this for now. I'll ask you to bring some people over later. You should also choose some people to cook and gradually withdraw. After all, she is her eldest son and eldest daughter-in-law, so why does she spend her whole life working around the stove?" The young couple responded obediently. It was a busy day until past midnight when the shopkeeper saw off the last wave of customers and had the door closed. Everyone was so tired that they didn't even want to move. Yang Datu felt that those hands were not his own anymore. "Auntie, do you think you'll come here if you're looking for someone to live with?" Yang Datu said with a grimace on his face, tears about to fall from his eyes. Zhang Ning shook his head regretfully, "There's still half an hour before the curfew, so people won't be able to come." After saying that, Zhang Ning looked at shopkeeper Su, "I'll leave the restaurant's affairs to you for the time being. Clean what needs to be done and wash what needs to be washed. The eldest young master and eldest young lady will come over early tomorrow. After explaining the matter, Zhang Ning took the two of them back in a carriage. On the way, she briefly talked about the affairs of Mr. Rui and Ai. Yang Datu and Lu Ye were stunned. It took Yang Datu a long time to find his voice. Anyang, you said that my eldest uncle is not dead, and you still accept the prince as your godfather. This is incredible. Yang Datu still couldn't believe that this was true. When he first came to Beijing, he passed through Kuzhou Prefecture. He made a special trip to visit his grandmother's family. He also knew how difficult it was for them. To put it harshly, his grandmother's family were almost all women soldiers. Some were old, some were disabled, and some were weak. If it hadn't been for meeting his aunt, this whole family would have been wiped out. Even though his mother-in-law tried her best to help, the foundation of her grandmother's family was too weak, and it was not enough to have only one son-in-law to support the family. If his uncle had really not died, his grandmother's family would not have had such a hard time. Lu Ye glared at Yang Datu angrily. If it's true, that would be a great thing. Apart from anything else, my grandmother would be extremely happy to know that my uncle is not dead. And my aunt's eyes, maybe all can be cured without medicine. Zhang Ning loved hearing this. Yi Zi is right, but we can't be too happy too early. We still have to wait and see what happens. When you go back and see them, be more respectful, talk less, and do more. Prince Rui has a weird temper. Zhang Ning told the two of them his summary. They thought that Mr. Rui was some kind of scourge, and they were worried all the way. As soon as they got off the carriage, they heard bursts of children's laughter coming from the house. The three of them walked into the courtyard and into the hall in confusion. I happened to see Prince Rui and Yi teasing Yang Legzu. Yang Legzu laughed happily, and the two of them started teasing each other more and more vigorously. The laughter could not even close the door of their home. Zhang Ning stepped forward funny and saluted Mr. Rui. Are you used to living here? Old Prince Rui gave Yang Legzu to Ai and sat down carelessly. The old man has even slept in a ruined temple in the wilderness. What's wrong with living there? But your cook's skills are not good at all, and the food she cooks is not delicious at all. Mr. Rui made no secret of his dislike. Yang Datu paused, turned around and went out. I'll do it. Zhang Ning stopped him. You stay with the guests. I'll do it. Prince Rui looked suspicious. Can your cooking skills be as good as your cook's? Zhang Ning didn't explain, went straight to the kitchen, and quickly prepared a table of dishes for them. Mr. Rui was stunned and exclaimed, I didn't expect it. You can really cook. He quickly took a sip of the boiled fish, his eyes flashing with surprise. Not bad, not bad. It tastes better than your son's. It seems that your son's cooking skills were learned from you. Your Majesty is very complimentary. Eat it while it's hot. Zhang Ning asked them to sit down very naturally, and placed a plate of fried dried fish in front of Yi, and said slowly, when I was young, my family was poor, and the people on the river had little to eat. Most of them are fish and shrimp. The big fish are kept and sold for money. If the small fish cannot be sold, they can only be kept for self-eating. What should I do if the fish cannot be kept in the hot weather? The only option is to hang them to dry. The dried fish was as hard as a stone, with not much meat and thorns. I was so annoyed that I would get into trouble every time I ate it. Unfortunately, there wasn't much food at home, so I had to eat it even if I didn't eat it. At this time, my eldest brother would carefully help me pick out the meat, and he would keep the fish heads and remaining fish bones for himself. This is the capital, and you can't buy any dried fish in the winter. You can only bake 2 of them yourself. They barely taste the same. They are fried, very fragrant, and they are still meat. Try them. Yi looked at old Prince Rui blankly, waiting for him to express his stance. Mr. Rui didn't react much. He only glanced at him and continued to eat happily. We are guests. You can eat as long as you are told. There is no need to be polite to her. Zhang Ning smiled and encouraged Yi to take down her chopsticks. Luya and Yang Data kept company by the side, silently daring not to make a sound. On the contrary, Yang Legzu, the kid, staggered to Yi's side and kept trying to give him the chicken drumstick in his hand. Luya had a big head and wanted to stop him, but Yi actually took it. Seeing that the child was happy, he started eating in cooperation. Luya quickly winked at her son. Yang Legzu is also a good person and wants to catch that plate of fish right now. Yi took the child into her arms very naturally and skinned the fish for him. The action of peeling the fish instantly made Zhang Ning's eyes turn red. Luya was a little worried. Yang. Zhang Ning picked up the bowl and chopsticks to cover up. Let's eat. Early the next morning. According to Zhang Ning's instructions, Renyiazai brought a bunch of slaves to her house to choose from. Uncle, people here are good at cooking. The ones on the left are all cooks from wealthy families. They were betrayed because the master's family committed crimes. Nowadays, most people buy maids and servants at a younger age. People dislike them. When I'm older, I don't want it, so I keep it. In fact, these few are not very old, the oldest is only 35, and the youngest is 28. After all, they have served in wealthy families before, so they still know a lot of specialty dishes. Renyaza sells hard. Zhang Ning's expression didn't change much. The more he talked, the more unsure he became. He quickly ran to the other side and pointed at the male slaves. These can also cook stoves. They used to work in the kitchen, even the young ones don't know how good their craftsmanship is. Renyiazai couldn't figure out Zhang Ning's temper and felt a little guilty. After Zhang Ning and others finished speaking, Yazi stood up and said unhurriedly, "Spread your hands and show me." Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 268. Chapter 268 Ayana. Her family is looking for someone to work in the kitchen, and the first requirement is to be clean. A person who loves cleanliness can keep himself as clean and tidy as possible even if he stays in a dirty environment for a long time. Renyiazai knew from her posture that she was an expert, so he stepped aside obediently and stopped speaking easily. Zhang Ning looked around and his eyes fell on a thin young man at the far side. "What's your name?" The young man shrank like a frightened deer, looking a little frightened. Nu's name is Chang Qing. Evergreen. Zhang Ning chewed the name over and over again, raised his eyebrows and asked, "Did your last master name it?" Chang Qing shook his head wildly. "It was the slave's father who got it." Renyeo followed Zhang Ning's inquiry and carefully thought about Chang Qing's situation. He didn't want to know, and when he thought about it, his face turned as white as paper. He quickly apologized to Zhang Ning. "Uncle, if not, let's forget about this person. You can take a look again other people." "What? Is there something wrong with this person?" Zhang Ning looked at the man with leisurely eyes. Renyazi was a little embarrassed. After struggling for a long time, he whispered in Zhang Ning's ear, "This man's surname is actually Dong. He is from the same family as the Dong family of Yun's winery. He is just a branch of a branch. It's not important. I don't know. His parents had committed something, and they were all in jail. The clan didn't want to be implicated by him, so the head of the Dong family sold him. To say this, what the Dong family did was unethical, but who allowed him to have parents who committed crimes? It's been more than half a year since I've had it in my hands, but I haven't been able to sell it. Uncle, you see that this person is in a special situation and can easily cause you trouble. You'd better look at others." To be honest, Renyiazai also wanted to sell Chang Qing as soon as possible. Unfortunately, there were too many elite people in the capital, and they were all powerful people. He did not dare to hide the situation at all. It was not that no one had taken a fancy to Changqing before, but as soon as they heard that he was sold by the Dong family, they knew that the water was deep inside and no one was willing to cause trouble for themselves for a slave. This was the only one who took Changqing out several times. No one cared about him, and after so many times, he forgot about this person's background, and all he could think about was selling the person quickly. Zhang Ning couldn't help but laugh and said, "This world is really small. There are people from the Dong family everywhere." Renyazi didn't hear what she was saying, so he took over the conversation and boasted, "Uncle, you are right. Renayun's winery is a big family. I heard that everyone in the county over there in Yun's mansion has the same surname. Dong has deep roots and luxuriant leaves, which is amazing." As he spoke, he glanced at Changqing with disgust. "Of course, the forest is big and there are all kinds of birds." Changqing kept his head hanging, his body trembling slightly, angry but not daring to resist. Zhang Ning saw this and ordered with Grandma Yu, "That's it? In addition, buy the third, fifth, eighth on the right and the first four on the left." Seeing that Zhang Ning wanted to buy Changqing, Renyazi felt as if he was dreaming. "Uncle, please think about it. It cost me 3 taels of silver to buy this guy when I was young, and I also spent some money to raise him in the past 6 months. I'll charge you 5 taels of silver, do you think so?" He didn't want to make money from this person at all, he just wanted to recover his capital. Zhang Ning agreed. Since most of the people she chose were elderly women and not as valuable as the little maids, these people cost a total of 60 taels of silver. Renyeo also gave a thin little girl about 10 years old as a gift. Zhang Ning had just noticed this child, and saw that the child had been clinging to Changqing and didn't say anything. Renyazi probably thought that she would open her mouth and buy the little girl together, but Zhang Ning refused to say anything. Renyazi wanted to take the girl away by force, but the girl resisted, and in the end she almost scratched Renyazi's face. The man was so angry that he whipped his whip, causing the girl to hide away. Not only did he not hurt the girl, he also made himself so angry that in the end Renyazi lost his mind and showed his ferocious side in front of Zhang Ning. Unexpectedly, he angered the girl and was almost killed. When the whip tightened around Renyazi's neck, it was Zhang Ning who spoke out to save him. Renyazi was shocked and frightened, and wanted to thank Zhang Ning for saving his life, so he left the girl alone and rolled around. Grandma Yu looked at the little girl and happily whispered in Zhang Ning's ear, "Madam, we have got a big deal. This girl was very powerful when she attacked Yazi just now. She showed her teeth and claws and was particularly wild." Zhang Ning glanced at the child casually, with a little more thought in his eyes. "I just don't know if they got a big deal or got into big trouble. Just take them down and wash them carefully. Most of these people have to work in Bayway building. It must not be sloppy." Mammy Yu quickly took the people down. At home, Zhang Ning brought soap and soap powder from Ping'an County, which were better than the soaps sold outside. Several people used several pots of hot water to wash them 3 or 4 times from beginning to end. When they appeared in front of Zhang Ning again, even she was a little surprised. Aunt Yu happily pointed at Changqing and the little girl, "Madam, this old slave said we got a big bargain. Look, these 2 children look so good. Especially the little girl, who looked dirty just now. My face is dark and sluggish, and I feel like I have changed after washing it. Not only does it look fair, but it also looks refined." Zhang Ning waved to the little girl and called her over. The little girl was not very willing. Changqing immediately pushed her out and whispered, "The master tells you to obey, otherwise the master doesn't want you and you will be sold again." Once the little girl heard this, she no longer resisted and walked up to Zhang Ning obediently. Zhang Ning looked at her appearance carefully, and the probing look in his eyes deepened. "What's your name?" "Ayana," the little girl answered quite neatly. "And you looked confused, Yana? This name is quite special." Ayana clenched her fists, raised her head, and emphasized loudly, "It's Ayana, not Ayana. This name is so strange, said Grandma Yu. Ayana was angry, it's not weird at all, you are the weird one. Drink, you girl has quite a temper, Aunt Yu muttered a few words, looking at Ayana like a peep show, getting more and more excited. Ayana felt that the old nanny in front of her was very strange, and hugged herself warily. I'm not a monkey, why are you staring at me like this? Grandma Yu's old face was slightly red, and she coughed to cover it up. Jiangning raised the corners of his lips slightly and continued to ask, why did you fall into the hands of a man? Ayana suddenly widened her eyes, you see that I am not being sold. Jiangning chuckled and said, with what you did just now, who can sell you? I have met so many people, and you are the smartest one. That black-hearted person thought I was easy to bully and wanted to sell me into a brothel, So I lit a fire and burned down a room in the brothel. Injured several girls. The old madam was very distressed. She didn't want me, and wanted Renyazai to pay for it. Renyazai paid 30 taels and wanted to beat me. I said he would suffer even more if he hurt me. Renyazai was deceived by me and actually really did it. He stopped and continued to support me. Ayana became more and more proud as she talked, as if she had done something extraordinary. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, FemaleProtagonist. Chapter 269. Chapter 269 Changqing's Injustice. Jiangning was dumbfounded, how long have you been in the hands of others? Ayana counted on her fingers for a long time and replied quickly, no more, no less, exactly 2 winters. Jiangning suddenly realized that this girl had been in the hands of Renyazi for 2 years. At that time, she was only about 8 years old, not much older than when she took Zhonmi and Mian in. Then where is your home? She naturally held the broken hair around Ayana's ears, her eyes were gentle and loving. Ayana was stunned for a moment, staring at Jiangning. She kept staring at her, and then threw herself into her arms, Mom. Can you be my mother? Jiangning. Mammy Yu was a little panicked and stepped forward to pull Ayana away. You kid doesn't know the rules. How can you hold my wife like this? Let go quickly. Mom, it's Mom, Ayana kept insisting. The hand holding Jiangning not only did not loosen, but also tightened a bit. Jiangning probably guessed what Ayana meant. Seeing that Ayana didn't want to say more, he waved his hand and asked Aunt Yu to step back. He advised her in a gentle voice, you stay at my house first, and I will tell you when you want to say something. But before that you have to follow some rules, okay? Ayana nodded vigorously and stayed close to Jiangning. Jiangning asked Aunt Yu to take her down to learn the rules, then turned to Changqing to inquire about Ayana's situation. I thought that with such a good relationship between the two of them, Changqing would know something about Ayana, but I didn't expect that this guy not only didn't know everything about Ayana, but he even knew Ayana's name only now. Jiangning was dumbfounded, aren't you two together? Changqing looked around blankly, the little one doesn't know Ayana. When she was in Renyazi's hands, Ayana would follow whoever she saw as honest. Renyazi asked us to work, and she would play there. If the little one is if she doesn't help her, the younger one will be hurt by her, so in the past 6 months, the younger one has been forced to do a lot of things for her. Jiangning swallowed and blinked hard, so, your relationship with her is not good. Then why did you speak for her just now? Changqing lowered her head in embarrassment, Xiao Xiao, I think she is a pitiful child. If she is sold again, I don't know if she will be able to meet someone like Xiao Xiao who is willing to help her. If she meets a bad person, no matter how powerful she is, she will not be able to help her. It's just a child, I'm afraid it's a bad thing. Jiangning was speechless, you are living such a difficult life, Yet you still care about a child of unknown origin. I don't know if you are kind or heartless. Tell me, what did your parents commit? They didn't commit any crime. Chang Qing suddenly became excited. Uncle, my parents were wronged. Last year, when the old lady of Dingguo Palace celebrated her birthday, she went to Yun's winery and ordered a batch of Yun's Meng. The order was taken by the head of the family, and the second master and the third master were responsible for making wine. The younger brother and his mother were just workers in the workshop. As a result, something went wrong with the batch of wine. Many people who dined at Dingguo Gong that day suffered from vomiting and diarrhea. After investigation, the governor said there was something wrong with the wine, but no one poisoned it. The governor and the Dingguo government held the Dong family responsible. The head of the family interrogated the second master and the third master. They shied away from each other and said that it had nothing to do with them. They passed the blame layer by layer. But in the end, it was my parents who were pushed out to take the blame. Everyone knew that my parents were unjust. The master of the family knew that, the second master and the third master knew it very well. There are also the Duke of Dingguo and the governor. They must also have suspicions, but there is no evidence. The head of the family threatened the little one's parents with the little one's life and forced them to confess. As a result, the little one was sold by the head of the family as soon as they confessed. This is the grief and resentment that Chang Qing has been suppressing in his heart without telling anyone. When he first came into the hands of Ren Yazi, he would scream at the top of his lungs that he was wronged. Every time he cried out, he would be beaten severely by Ren Yazi. The most serious one was he was almost beaten to death, but Ayana helped him. At that time, even if he knew that Ayana was following him to make him work, he still admitted it. Hearing this, Zhang Ning became furious and shouted, "That's unreasonable. If the governor is suspicious, why doesn't he investigate it carefully?" Chang Qing smiled bitterly and shook his head. It was the little one's parents who took the initiative to plead guilty. The governor even reminded them at the time, but they were worried about the little one and would rather die to protect him. Because they took the initiative to confess, although Duke Dingguo was angry, he did not let the governor punish them severely. The governor had rebelled against them for 10 years, and he didn't know what they were doing now. Zhang Ning was furious when he heard this. King Xiaoao came from outside with Qi Kong. When he saw Zhang Ning, he immediately asked in a carefree manner, "Where is my uncle? Did you stay at your house honestly yesterday?" Zhang Ning sneered and stretched out his slender palm. "What are you doing?" King Xiaoao was a little confused. Zhang Ning began to settle the accounts. "Yesterday, the two of them had a big banquet at my house. They had all kinds of delicacies from the mountains and the sea. The meal cost 20 or 30 taels no matter what. At the end of the day, it will be calculated as 100 taels. You pay for 1 month first. 3,000 taels, small business, no credit." King Xiaoao was so angry that his hair stood on end, and the hand he pointed at Zhang Ning was trembling, and he cursed from the bottom of his heart, "Profiteer! I can give my uncle the money, but isn't Yi your eldest brother? He eats yours, it's your duty, why should I pay? Even if I have to pay, I will only give you 1,500 taels." Qi Kong looked at his master in shock, as if he was looking at someone who was taken advantage of. Zhang Ning shook his head and denied, "That man has not recovered his memory yet, and he is the godson of the old prince. The old prince should be responsible for it. If he regains his memory and is sure to be my eldest brother, then of course I will pay for it." "Oh, right. You reminded me just now, and I almost forgot to calculate the cost of their accommodation. You see, our family doesn't have many servants, and the old prince is picky. He doesn't like the dishes made by my cook, so I have to cook them myself. Kitchen, and..." Zhang Ning took into account all the money he spent pouring Yexiang, and Zhou's ruthless appearance made King Xiaoao stay where he was, unable to close his mouth for a long time. When Zhang Ning finished speaking, he silently took out 5,000 taels of silver notes and looked at her with a complicated expression. Have you taken any medicine? Who provoked you again? Qi Kongchen was completely speechless. His master was not angry even after this. He was still worried about Uncle Guang'en. Could it be that he was possessed by evil spirits? Zhang Ning's eyes slowly fell on Chang Qing, and he said angrily, if you have any grudges, just say it. This is Xiaoao King, the Dong family is nothing. Hearing these foul words, King Xiaoao became inexplicably nervous. Wait for Chang Qing to tell the whole story about what happened to him. Before King Xiaoao could say anything, old Prince Rui, who had just entered the door, warned him first. How can this not be so reasonable? In broad daylight, the world is bright, so do the Dong family want to go to heaven? The old man will go to Fuyan and talk to him. King Xiaoao wanted to stop him, but found that the old man couldn't hold him back when he was angry, so he quickly chased after him with Qikong. At the same time, a wave of people came to the backyard of Yun's winery. The shopkeeper Dongmija went over to receive him in person. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 270. Chapter 270 Vicious Thoughts. The leader was wearing a black and gold cloak, and he was wrapped tightly. The few people following him were also wearing cloaks, but they were not as noble as the leader. Dongmija invited them into the house and respectfully presented a jar of wine. Master, this is the wine sold by Baywillow next door yesterday, 5 taels per jar, the same price as our Yun's ameng. Dong Jihong, the head of the Dong family, took a silent breath, then stood up suddenly and stared sharply at the brothers sitting next to him. Which of you stole the secret recipe of Yun's meng? The second eldest brother, Dong Jikane, hurriedly denied it. Brother, aren't you the only one who knows the secret recipe of Yun's meng? Even if we want to steal it, we have to know where it is. That's right, brother. You can't rely on us just because this wine tastes similar to Yun's meng. Dong Jiping, the third child, followed with dissatisfaction. The fourth child, Dong Jaihe, took a sip silently at first, then frowned. It does taste similar to Yun's meng. No, this wine tastes even better than Yun's meng. If we use this formula to improve Yun's meng, why worry about Yun's meng? It can't be a tribute wine. The Dong family has been making wine for generations. After the first ancestor became rich, every head of the family wanted to send the Dong family's wine to the palace, but it was a pity that it was always so short. It's not like no one has tried hard in the past few decades, but they can't always find the right method. After tasting Baywillow's wine today, Dong Jaihe suddenly understood. Dong Jikane sneered and said, "Fourth brother, you are exaggerating. Our Yun's dream has lasted for decades, how can it be compared to ordinary wine?" Dong Jaihe didn't argue with him and poured him a drink directly. Dong Jikane still looked arrogant, but he was slapped in the face after taking a sip. Dong Jiping looked at Dong Jikane's stiff expression and drank a glass out of curiosity. After decades of tasting wine, they could tell whether the wine was good or bad with just one sip. Dong Jiping panicked immediately. "Brother! This wine!" As he spoke, he suddenly looked at Dongmija. "What do you think the Bayway building next door is about?" The Dong family has built a winery and a large house on the outskirts of the capital. Normally, they would not enter the city, and they would not be able to know all the news in the city at the first time. Dongmija told everything about Bayway Lu and Guang'enbo. "Master, Uncle Guang'en has been to our winery before. I thought that Uncle Guang'en came to order wine from us before the restaurant opened, so I sent someone to keep an eye on it. But there was no news from Bayway restaurant until yesterday. Only then did I know that Baywillow uses peach blossom wine, Mirensui, Little Old Man and Yukian wine. The wine that tastes similar to Yunzameng is Xiaolaoeng. I also bought a jar of another Yukian wine. This wine is different from the best-selling wines in Beijing. It has both fruity and wine aromas, and is sweet in the mouth. More suitable for women. Dong Jihong was not interested in Yuqiangjiang, but he was determined to get the recipe from the little old man. How do you think we can get the formula? Dong Jihong stared at the others with a calculating look on his face. Dong Jikang and others were silent. Uncle Guang'an was a woman but not a man, so the idea of sending a woman away obviously didn't work. Brother, why don't we try to spend money? I heard that Uncle Guang'an was from an ordinary farm family, and the Yang family has little wealth. At worst, we will spend tens of thousands of taels, so I don't believe she won't be tempted. Dong Jiping was very confident and confident. Appearance. Dong Jihong glared at him angrily, idiot. The Dong family made their fortune from wine, but now they have to spend tens of thousands of taels to buy the wine recipe from others. If word spread, wouldn't it make people laugh? Dong Jiping flinched and immediately fainted. What should we do? Others looked at Dong Jihong one after another. Dong Jihong's eyes flashed with a calculating light, and he glanced at several brothers from time to time, making others feel terrified. After a long while, he and Dong Jikang ordered, "You and the third child go to the government office to report the case. Just say that the Dong family is here today. I accidentally discovered that Yun Zimeng's formula was lost. The last time I saw the secret formula was in the spring. It is not clear when exactly it was lost. Let me mention the old man from Beiwalo and ask Fuyin to check it out. Lao Si, you let people spread the news and say that the Dong family lost the recipe of Yun Zimeng. The little old man from Beiwalo tastes the same as Yun Zimeng, so there must be something wrong." Dong Maji's heart trembled when he heard this. "Master, is this okay? The relationship between Guang Enbo and Xiao Wang is extraordinary. When someone made trouble for Yangta restaurant, Xiao Wang did not care about his reputation just for that one bite of food. Now for Guang An's sake, Ember, I still don't know what he will do." Dong Jihong didn't take it seriously. "I heard that Uncle Guang An has grandchildren. Even if King Xiao has any intention, the emperor will not agree. If you let people spread some rumors, there are differences between men and women. King Xiao will definitely not do it because of his reputation. If you can't stand the chance, just send a few more beauties to Prince Xiao's mansion. The reason why I didn't accept her before was because Princess Xiao was still there. Now that King Xiao has a reputation for being romantic, I don't believe he can refuse a stunning beauty. Men are all the same, the so-called long-term love is just a lie." Dong Maji saw that Dong Jihong was determined to have his own way, so he could only obey and do as he was told. Dong Jikang and Dong Jiping looked at each other, stood up and walked out. The government office is not far from the wine shop, and the two of them arrived quickly in a carriage. Governor Xialianyuan met them in person. Dong Jikang looked solemn and presented a box of treasures as soon as he came up. Xialianyuan couldn't help but push the box back without leaving a trace. "Mr. Dong if you have something to say, you might as well say it directly." Dong Jikang pushed the box in front of Xialianyuan again, looking anxious. "Mr. Oh? What's missing?" Xialianyuan was a little curious. Could it be that the Dong family had some treasure hidden in it? Dong Jikang leaned into Xialianyuan's ear and whispered, "Today, a distinguished guest came to the house." The owner of the house opened the secret box on the spur of the moment, but found that Yun Zimeng's formula was lost. "What?" Xialianyuan was startled, and he couldn't calm down at all. How could such an important thing be lost? "Do you know who did it?" "I don't know." Dong Jikang spread his hands and jumped anxiously, saying what Dong Jihong taught him. Xialianyuan's expression changed slightly. "Do you suspect that Beiwalo has stolen Yun Zimeng's formula?" This Dong Jikang and Dong Jiping looked at each other and did not deny it. Whether it is true or not requires an investigation by adults to know. If it's not the case, we will definitely prepare a heavy gift and go to the door to apologize. If it is the case, please make the decision for the Dong family. Absurd, Xiaolianyuan suddenly changed his face and slammed the table. Do you know what you are talking about? To tell you the truth, even the emperor drank Baiwolo's wine and praised it. If what you said is true, I will definitely pay you back. It's fair, but if you slander me at will, it won't be solved with a simple apology.